Good morning, everyone, and welcome to National Ag Day. My name is Rachel McCann, and I am your moderator here at our event in Melbourne. We are gathered today by the Birrawong, or the Yarra River, in Naarm. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Their continuing connection to land and sea, that they were never ceded sovereignty, and extend our welcome to all First Nations people who are joining us here today. We are so privileged to be here in person this year. In Melbourne, we are down at South Bank, so if you are in the area, please come down and say hello to everyone who is joining us on Facebook today via our live stream. Hello and welcome. Please share your love and support with us. Don't forget to share with the hashtag AgDayAU. We would love to hear from you. And also hello to everyone in Sydney. We have an event live in Sydney. You'll hear from our beautiful moderator, Kayla Evans, today, coming to us via video. We have so much to share with you today. I cannot wait for you to meet all the wonderful farmers and people that we get to share stories from and hear their stories. We have the wonderful Melinee Leather from Barfield Station joining us as our first guest. But before we get to Mel, a big shout out to our major sponsors, NBN Co, Nutrien Ag Solutions, Australian Made, and Syngenta. Thank you so much. Without your support today wouldn't be possible. So I think we are ready to get Mel on. We have Mel here with us live. Hi, Melinee. It's so wonderful to see you. Tell us where you are and about the operation that you're running.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm in central Queensland, so situated between Banana and Theodore. Sorry, I'm just trying to centre myself there. Yeah, how's that? Not doing well centering you. Yeah, so yeah, central Queensland, it's fantastic up here. We've had a nice lot of rain, but not too much.
That's good to hear. It's a lovely sunny day here in Melbourne, Mel. It's so wonderful to see you again. We had the privilege of meeting during our Backstory series, where we got to come out and learn about all the incredible tech and innovation that you're running on your property so that we can connect our communities here in the city with the incredible work that you're doing out on property. Would you speak to some of the innovations that you have at Barfield Station?
Sure. Look, technology is so important for us in the beef industry, and I guess in any of our agricultural industries. But certainly in the beef industry, I think we try and do as much as we can. And here on Barfield, we're using all sorts of interesting technology to, help us be a lot more efficient and productive, but also to measure and record a lot of our data that we collect. And that data is really important to our industry to help not just tell our story, but it verifies with, backs it up with verifiable evidence, and data is really important to us. So we use things like SIBO mapping, which is satellite mapping, to look at our ground cover and pasture biomass. And that's really important to us to make sure not only that we've got sufficient feed for our cattle, but that we're really protecting our environment and making sure we've always got a good body of ground cover across our soils. We use things like a lot of renewable energy. So one of our properties is 100% run by solar power. We're running something like 30 odd solar water bores. And we also have solar going into some of our other properties into our electricity grid as well. So renewable energy is really important to us. Any sort of technology that can assist us to run our property more efficiently, look after our animal, but also protect our environment.
The solar that you have set up on the property is absolutely remarkable, and I was fascinated to see the different ways that you can use it to power your water supply and manage the resource in that way. That was really quite amazing. Would you speak to the soil carbon project and what you're doing around sustainability in that space?
Yeah, sure. So sustainability is another one of those things that's front and centre for us every day. And when we talk about sustainability, we talk about looking after our animals, our environment, our people and our business. So We're very excited to be registering a soil carbon project here at Barfield, and we're investigating registering a human-induced regrowth vegetation project at one of our other properties. So we're really aligned ourselves with the red meat industry's goal to be carbon neutral by 2030. And so part of that journey has been investigating how we will register these carbon projects with the Emissions Reduction Fund. We want to have something that's gold standard. And of course, that is across Australia, the gold standard, and across the world, really, the gold standard measure. So here at Barfield, the Soil Carbon Project, we'll be looking at ways that we can increase soil carbon on this property and be able to, once again, back that up with verifiable data and evidence.
And one of those projects is through the Leukina that you've planted on the property. Will you speak to that too?
Yeah, sure. So Leukina is one of my favourite topics, and I think it's a magnificent feed. Leukina is one of the most sustainable legumes that we have available to us in the beef industry. And here at Barfield, we've got around 5,000 acres of Leukina planted. So this is a really, it's a drought tolerant plant. So we know that when we get really hot and dry here, which we do experience here in central Queensland, that Leukina is going to be there as a very high protein source for our cattle. When cattle feed on Leukina, they can reduce their emissions between 20 and 40%. So that's fantastic for our climate story. And the woody growth of the Leukina sequesters carbon as well. So, and because it is a deep-rooted plant, it holds soil moisture, prevents erosion, and that's really important to us. We want to keep those valuable high nutrient soils on property. We don't want to see them running off into the waterways, because up here in central Queensland, of course, we're in part of the Great Barrier Reef catchment. And so it's really important to us that we don't get any sediment runoff of our property as well.
Yes, your commitment is remarkable, and there's so much integrity with that project. Mel, tell us about traceability and biosecurity. What does that look like on the property, and why is it important to you?
Yeah, look, traceability, I think Australia, it leads the world in traceability, and I'm very proud of that. In Australia, we have a system called the National Livestock Identification System. And what that means is every one of our animals at branding, so pretty much not long after birth, between 6 and 8 weeks of age, they get an electronic ear tag in their ear, and that identifies them for the life of that animal. So we know that every time that they come into the yards, we read them with an electronic device reader, and we record them on a little computer system, and we can tell you everything that's occurred with that animal for its entire life. So whether we've had to give it treatments, we monitor its weight gains, and basically the general health of that animal. And because we have properties apart, we shift animals, obviously, between properties, and we trace those movements. So whatever movements those animals make, we're tracing them, tracking them, and they're recorded on a national database. So, you know, it's a really important, and it's got a lot of integrity behind it, this system. Should there be a biosecurity incursion in Australia, we will be able to know exactly the movements of any animals from our property. We'll be able to trace where they've been and what they've done. So that's really important. Should we ever have an incursion, that you know, we can move very quickly to try and contain any issues and any possible disease outbreaks. And that will be important for us to be able to return to trade quickly and provide the good quality protein that we do for the world.
Mel, one of the things that I loved to hear about your property is your continuing engagement with scientists and to maintain and build the biodiversity on your property, and it's something you're really passionate about. I would love to hear about that and some of the species that you found on the property, and what you're doing to engage in a future-proofing of the land as well.
Yeah, I love working with scientists, and we pretty much work with them on a daily basis, because we're running across our 3 properties, we're running a number of projects that require their expert knowledge and technical advice. So here at Barfield, we've worked with the Queensland Herbarium and looked at benchmarking our biodiversity of our animals and our plant and our flora. Animals and our flora, sorry, fauna and flora. And that was fantastic to have a whole pile of scientists on ground for a couple of weeks, counting every single flora and fauna species. We then put up 40 cameras that tracked the movements of those animals over the 24-hour period. So it was just incredible to see the diversity of species that we had on our property. Some of our areas on Barfield ranked higher than national parks for their flora and fauna biodiversity. Then we had other areas where there was a few gaps, and that was really important for us to identify those gaps, because we can now go in and make the appropriate changes to see improvements in those flora and fauna species numbers. So we're excited to be doing that. Some of our other properties, we're involved in the federal government's biodiversity remnant veg pilot, which is really looking at the remnant vegetation on one of our properties, which also happens to be a koala habitat and contains an endangered flora species. So we're going to be very carefully monitoring that over the next 10 years and beyond with the federal government to make sure that the management decisions we're doing on ground there are going to continue to increase that habitat for koalas, look after those endangered flora species, and hopefully, you know, expand that across the entire property. So we understand that, you know, remnant vegetation is really important to us to not only manage our property and look after our animals, but the native species as well. So yeah, look, scientists are absolutely critical to our operation, and we really appreciate that we have some magnificent scientists in Australia that we can work with, and actually across the world. So we are working with scientists globally as well on some remote technology, looking at, once again, our carbon levels in our soil remotely. And we're also looking at our hydrology. So what's happening under the ground with our water as well. So look, there's just, yeah, it's just fantastic to work with these people, and we really, really enjoy that part of our work.
It really is a testament to the commitment of longevity on your property, combining technology together to create innovative solutions for the long term and for the planet as well. But Mel, before we have to say goodbye to you, we would just love to hear from you. It's National Ag Day today. We are engaging our urban communities with our farmers. Is there anything that you would like to say to everyone listening at home? I can speak to how delicious and wonderful the produce you make on your farm is and how passionate you are. But if there's anything you would like to say, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, look, I'm just so pleased that we have the opportunity to talk to people in the city about how important agriculture is to us here in Australia. But I recently travelled overseas to Ireland to a global alliance for sustainable livestock. And I realised there, with 40 countries represented, how important the work we do here in Australia is to the world. Food security and food nutrition is absolutely critical for us to look after, you know, the health and well-being of people, not just here in Australia, but all over the world. So I feel like we've got a real responsibility here in Australia to get it right. 70% of our product in the beef industry is exported. But having said that, our single biggest customer is here in Australia. So it's front and centre for us that we get nice, healthy, nutritious food to the tables of Australians. But once again, there's that responsibility that we need to be providing this right across the world. So thanks for supporting our industry. And I look forward to talking to you all more further at some point.
Thank you so much, Mel, and have a wonderful day. Happy National Ag Day.
Happy National Ag Day, everyone. Thank you.